1. Bouncing versus dribbling. Young players need to understand the concept of dribbling, especially how it differs from simply bouncing a ball with two hands. Proper dribbling techniques help improve a player's offensive game by putting that player into an athletic position to thwart defenders and transition to a shot. A one-handed dribble is legal in basketball, whereas the two-handed bounce is a violation called a double dribble and would result in a turnover. Young players should practice dribbling in a stationary position with one hand. 2. Fingerpad dribbling.
The key fundamental when dribbling is to make sure that you push the ball down as opposed to slapping at it. And you want to do that by using your finger pads, not your fingertips or the palm of your hand. We'll demonstrate this now. Nice job, guys.
For optimal ball control when dribbling, players should push the ball down and receive the ball back up with their finger pads, which can be found on the fingers in between the fingertips and the palm of the hand. The dribbler should relax their fingers flat and dribble the ball on the inside pads of their fingers.
So if you notice Dave here, he's keeping the ball slightly to the right of his body, that way it doesn't hit his foot. He keeps his eyes forward so he can see a potential cutter, maybe he has an open shot at the basket, or he can see defenders that are coming up to try to strip the ball. He pushes the ball down with his finger pads. Make sure it's not your fingertips and also not the palm of your hand. And it doesn't come above your waist. Doing a nice job there, incorporating all the skills that we just talked about. A couple of things you want to be careful of. You don't want the ball to come too high. If it does, you're susceptible to getting stripped by a defender. You also want to make sure you continue to push the ball down with your finger pads, not slapping at the ball. We don't want to slap at it. You can even see there how his control decreases as he starts to slap the ball. We want to make sure we avoid palming the ball. We want to keep our hand on top of the ball. If we palm it, that's going to be a violation in a game. That's going to lead to a turnover. You don't want that. So always make sure you keep your hand on top of the ball. Also, you don't want to be too rigid when you're playing basketball. You want to be in a good athletic position. You want your knees slightly bent. You want to be in an athletic position, not straight up and down. If a defender comes up to him, he can strip the ball easily. If he's in a more athletic position now, he could potentially guard dribble, which means just keep his body in between the defender and the ball, and he's less likely to get the ball stolen from him.
3. Stationary dribbling versus moving dribbling.
Two types of dribbling that we're going to do today are the stationary dribble versus the moving dribble. Now, both have their place within the game of basketball. Stationary, for the very beginners, allows that person to see what it's like to dribble a ball for the first time in open space. Once they've mastered that skill, they can move on to moving around with the dribble, which is much more accurately simulating a real basketball game.
Illustrated here is the stationary dribble. Young players should practice the stationary dribble with their eyes forward and not constantly looking at the ball. Once they feel comfortable with the stationary dribble, using all of the fundamentals discussed in the previous drill, such as dribbling with the finger pads and dribbling at waist level, they can then transition to the moving dribble, which better simulates game conditions. On the coach's go command, the players can begin dribbling while on the move. Dribbling with other people nearby forces the players to keep their eyes forward. The players can switch hands and even vary the pace of their moving dribble. Coaches can then prompt the dribblers to return to the stationary dribble, and then back to the moving dribble to get the players used to handling the ball in various game-like scenarios.
And moving.
4. Progression dribble.
Dribble 3 times with your right hand, please. Go ahead.
The progression dribble is a great beginner's drill that conditions players who are uncomfortable with dribbling into proper techniques. A coach or parent will tell the player to dribble the basketball a certain number of times in the stationary position.
Times in a row without making a mistake, right hand only. Go ahead.
Upon completing that set of dribbles without losing control of the ball, the coach or parent will then increase the number in the set.
With your left hand now. Ready? Go.
Dribbling is the foundation for which all other basketball skills, such as passing and shooting, are built off of. It's important for players to make dribbling a basketball second nature. This drill is a perfect way to do so by increasing the dribbling repetitions. Players can also switch hands to complete their dribbling sets. This drill can even become a game by challenging the players to dribble as many times as they can without losing control of the basketball. Five, moving dribble tag. The moving dribble tag drill is a great drill for emphasizing the importance of all the dribbling fundamentals discussed in the previous drills, because it best simulates for the offensive basketball player how to avoid approaching defenders in games while also keeping the head up when dribbling the ball. This game is a lot like tag, except that all of the players must dribble a basketball. At the beginning of the game, one of the dribblers is chosen to be the tagger. On the go command, all of the players dribble around a confined area. The tagger, also dribbling a basketball, must try to tag one of the other dribblers, who are all trying to dribble away from him. If another dribbler is tagged, then he becomes the tagger. A great variation of this drill is to force the player who gets tagged to have to make a basket before he can re-enter the game as a tagger. This in turn will become a dual-purpose drill, although mastering the art of dribbling is the most important aspect of this drill. In order to be successful at this game, whether you are a tagger or a dribbler, dribbling with a head up is a must. This drill is also great for teaching dribbling while making sharp turns and while under pressure. 6. Stationary dribble, sitting. It is essential for players to master the art of dribbling. Therefore, they must be comfortable performing this athletic move in various settings and positions. Here we see players dribbling while sitting. All of the fundamentals are still in effect, such as keeping the head up and dribbling with the finger pads.
Some leverage here. We're going to stand up, keeping the ball in our left hand.
The players can then try to stand up while dribbling.
Get in a good athletic position. Knees slightly bent, never slapping.
Alternating between the dominant and non-dominant hands will only increase the dribbling comfort level of the player. When dribbling while standing, the player should be in a good athletic position with the knees slightly bent and the ball a little bit to the side of the body. Alternating left to right while standing after only one dribble is a common offensive move. Dribblers should always be looking up and not at the ball. To complete the cycle, dribblers can finally sit back down while maintaining the dribble.
We're going to sit back down. And there you have it.
7. Roll around. This is a very elementary drill designed primarily for beginning players. The purpose of this drill, much like many of the dribbling drills already shown, is to help players feel comfortable handling the basketball. This is a critical aspect of basketball and needs to be taught at an early age. Sometimes, even before a player is coached to dribble a basketball, he must first get used to how the ball moves around and reacts to his fingers. Professional basketball players are constantly inventing new ways to manipulate the ball around their body. This drill introduces the concept at the elementary level by having the players roll a basketball around themselves while sitting. Players can first roll the ball clockwise around their body before transitioning into rolling counterclockwise, the whole time keeping their eyes forward. One variation of this drill is called over the mountain. Here the players roll the ball over their legs. Over the mountain can be performed clockwise or counterclockwise. A second variation is to have the players roll the ball under the drawbridge, or under their elevated legs. This is a great drill to begin a youth practice, or for a parent to perform with a young child interested in the game. 8. Low dribble, control dribble. Very rarely in games can a player dribble without any pressure applied by the defense. Offensive players must learn how to dribble the ball while also protecting the ball from being stolen by a defender guarding him. There's a specific technique called the low dribble or the control dribble. In this drill, on the go command, the defender will run up and try to strip the ball away from him. The proper technique to dribble against a defender is for the offensive player to turn away from the defender, so his body is between the ball and the defender. He can use his arm to box out the defender. The players can switch roles between offense and defense. Remember, when dribbling against a defender, players should maintain a controlled dribble that is low to the ground. A high dribble would leave the ball vulnerable to being stripped by the defender. The offensive player must also be able to shuffle his feet to keep his body in between the ball and the defender. 9. No-look dribble. This is a great drill that teaches players to keep their head up when dribbling. A coach or parent will hold up a number, and the players will have to shout out what the number is while they're dribbling. If the players are looking at the ball, then they won't be able to see how many fingers the coach is holding up. In games, players must always have their heads up when dribbling because they must know where their teammates as well as the defenders are on the court at all times while in control of the ball. An advanced progression of this drill is to have the players dribble while on the move. All of these drills work together towards making ball control second nature. 10. High five dribble. This is a progression of the previous no-look dribble drill. In this drill, players line up on alternating sides with their hands raised. An offensive player dribbles a basketball to each of his teammates holding up their hands. Upon reaching each player down the line, the ball handler must high-five the extended hand before dribbling to the next station. Because teammates are on opposite sides down the line, the dribbler must alternate hands when dribbling down the line. When he reaches the end, he rotates with the last player in line and everybody moves up one position. This drill emphasizes dribbling with the head up. 11. Crossover dribble. The crossover dribble is one of the most common dribbles for changing directions with the basketball, finding passing lanes, and escaping defenders. When performing the crossover dribble, the player should plant his foot, the foot on the same side as the hand dribbling the basketball, then push off the plant to change direction while also changing hands to dribble the basketball. Coaches or parents can set up a series of cones along a driveway for players to dribble towards. 12. Behind the back dribble. The behind the back dribble technique is a more advanced dribble. Through practice and repetitions, it could be an effective move for the youth athlete. It is similar to the crossover dribble. Here you are doing the crossover behind the back. The player once again plants his foot, then brings the ball behind his back to his other hand. The behind-the-back dribble takes time before feeling comfortable. Practicing some of the earlier ball handling drills, such as the roll-around and stationary sitting dribble, will go a long way toward perfecting this dribble. 13. Between the legs dribble. A popular crossover dribble is the between the legs dribble. It's a great way to get the defender off balance when changing direction with the basketball. If the player is dribbling the ball with his right hand, then he will bounce the ball outside of the right foot while leaning forward with the left foot. As the foot plants and the weight transfers forward, he will bounce the ball under the left leg and collect the ball with the left hand. If cones are set up down a driveway, the player can alternate dribbling between the legs, leading with both the dominant and non-dominant hands. Young players should start off slow and only build speed as the comfort level increases. 14. Speed dribble. The speed dribble is a great way to start any practice because it has a dual purpose. It's an aerobic exercise that helps the players loosen up and also conditions ball control while moving faster down the court, which more accurately simulates game conditions. All of the dribbling fundamentals, such as keeping the head up and dribbling up to the waist, should continue to be utilized. When speed dribbling, players should continuously push the ball in front of them. The key here is to dribble as fast as you can while maintaining ball control. This simulates a fast break in a game. 15. Hesitation dribble. The hesitation dribble is another effective way to change the pace and keep the defender off guard. It involves a slight hesitation or stutter in the dribble to momentarily freeze the defender, so then the ball handler can speed dribble by the defender. When performing the hesitation dribble, players must first be dribbling at a quick pace and approaching a defender. In practice, cones can be set up to simulate a defender. At the cone or defender, the ball handler will then quickly slow down, almost come to a stop. He will start to stand up straight, as if coming up to make a pass. This should relax the defender, at which point the ball handler will take an explosive dribble step to the side or ahead of the defender. Remember, when performing the hesitation, never stop dribbling, because if a player stops dribbling, then begins dribbling again, it'll be a double dribble violation, and the other team will get the ball. 16. Spin dribble. Spin dribbles are useful for keeping the ball away from an aggressive defender while changing directions. When performing the spin dribble, it's important to switch the ball to the other hand when spinning away from the defender. For example, if a player is dribbling the ball with his right hand, he would pivot around with his left foot, and with his back to the defender, or in this case a cone, the ball handler transfers the basketball to the left hand because it would leave his body in between the ball and the defender. 17. Pullback dribble. The pullback dribble is in the same family as the hesitation dribble, but instead of momentarily stopping or stuttering, the ball handler will suddenly pull back. The pullback dribble is supposed to look like the ball handler is going to dribble forward past the defender, but instead he pulls up and retreats. This movement is designed to make a defender back up and become off balance and give the ball handler space to take a jump shot. When approaching the defender, the ball handler should take a hard step forward with the foot opposite the ball, while also using the opposite arm as a guard. Then shuffle backwards for a clear look at the basket. 18. Two-ball dribble. This is another excellent drill for getting players comfortable with ball handling. A player will dribble two balls at one time. Dribbling with a dominant and non-dominant hand at the same time will strengthen the skill for both hands and will make dribbling on either side second nature when dribbling with only one ball. Basketball is an ambidextrous sport. Players must be able to dribble on both sides with ease. This drill will go a long way toward accomplishing this. Players can dribble up and down to cones with two balls. They can dribble at the same time or alternate between dominant and non-dominant hands. 19. Hula hoop dribble. This is a fun drill for young players learning how to keep control of the ball while dribbling. Tie a rope or string around a hula hoop. Here we're using a jump rope to tie around the hula hoop. You don't need state-of-the-art equipment and a full team to practice basketball fundamentals. Be creative with household items as props to perform some of these drills. They engage young players by making practice fun. One player will pull the hula hoop around the ground with the rope, while a ball handler will try to keep his dribbles inside of the moving hula hoop. This is a great way to teach dribbling while on the move. The key is to be able to keep the dribble in the hoop without looking down to make sure it stays within the circle, thus promoting keeping the eyes forward. The player pulling the hula hoop can pick up the pace to make it tougher for the dribbler. The two players can switch roles once the ball handler misses the inside of the hula hoop. The hula hoop dribble can become a fun game to see who can stay inside the hoop the longest. 20. Finders keepers. Young players tend to learn techniques better when it's taught through a game. Here's a great way to emphasize the importance of keeping your head up when dribbling on the move. Players will dribble around a confined area. When a parent or coach yells out, "change," the players must leave their ball and find someone else's.
Change.
When dribbling, the players must have their eyes fixed forward and know who is around them at all times.
Change.
Once change is called out, they can easily grab a nearby basketball. In games, players with the basketball must know their surroundings. That's the best way to protect the basketball.
Change.
21. Tennis ball drill. This is a great drill for conditioning the youth athlete to keep his head up when dribbling the basketball. A coach or parent will toss tennis balls to the player as he dribbles in a stationary position, and must catch the tennis ball with a hand not dribbling the basketball. This forces the player to keep his eyes forward toward the action in front of him, not the basketball, which should be habitual. The coach or parent can have the player alternate dribbling hands, as well as have him dribble while on the move. Players who are more concerned with watching their dribbling technique are more susceptible to losing the ball to defenders. 22. Red light, green light.
Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. Red light.
This drill takes the popular children's game Red Light, Green Light, 1, 2, 3 and adds a basketball element.
Red light. Good.
Players line up a predetermined distance away from a parent or coach. The coach has his back to the players and will say, "Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3." Players must try to dribble as close to the coach as they can before he turns around.
Red light.
Once the coach turns around, all of the players must freeze. If the coach catches anyone moving, he must then return to the starting line. The first player to reach the coach without being seen moving wins the game.
1, 2, 3. Red light. And he made it.
This drill conditions the youth athlete to feel comfortable with ball handling in a fun, competitive framework. It also teaches how to quickly come to a stop from a fast break dribble. 23. Freeze dribble.
Go. Go fast. Keep that dribble low. Freeze.
This is a variation to the previous red light, green light 1, 2, 3 game. In this drill, players dribble around a confined area. Here it's a driveway, but it could be anywhere like a parking lot or a cul-de-sac. When the coach yells freeze, all of the players must stop dribbling, maintain their balance, and freeze. If any of the players are caught moving after they were told to freeze, then they must take a seat.
Freeze. Okay, Andrew, right there. Be careful not to kick him on the way by. And go.
The last player standing is the winner. Games like the freeze dribble and red light, green light 1, 2, 3 keep youth athletes engaged, while also teaching critical dribbling fundamentals. 24. Chest pass. Passing is another vital aspect of basketball with its own set of fundamentals.
Hit him right in the numbers.
Practicing passing techniques at a young age will provide invaluable skills for the youth athlete that will guide him towards success in travel leagues and school teams for years to come. Here we see two teammates performing the chest pass. The chest pass is the most common and most accurate pass in basketball.
Hit him right in the chest every time.
When performing a chest pass, hold the ball close to your chest with your fingers spread around the ball. Take a step forward while releasing the ball toward your teammate. Your arm should extend out toward the target as you push off the back foot. The ball should hit your teammate in the chest. If more players are available, a coach can set up an inbound play so that players can get used to performing a chest pass to a teammate open for a jump shot. 25. Bounce pass. Oftentimes, defenders will block passing lanes and make a chest pass difficult to achieve. In these instances, a bounce pass might be a safer option for getting a ball to a teammate with an opponent in the ball handler's face trying to intercept the ball. When performing a bounce pass, the passer should aim to hit the floor 3/4 of the way between himself and the defender. Accuracy is key in both the chest pass and the bounce pass. The passer should hit the receiver chest high in both types of passes. This way, the receiver will not have to reach for the ball and become off balance and vulnerable to defenders. Coaches should have their players practice the bounce pass to a receiver on the run toward the basket to simulate more realistic game situations. 26. Overhead passing. Another method of passing is overhead passing. This option works best for long passes down the court, such as inbounding the ball from the sidelines. Chest passes and bounce passes performed at long distances are usually inaccurate and afford the defense plenty of time to steal the ball. Overhead passes are best for passing over the top of the defense. When performing the overhead pass, keep both hands on top of the ball, step forward, and release toward the target. Again, like the previous passes, players want to hit their target in the chest with their pass. 27. Baseball passing. Baseball passing is the fourth method of passing in basketball and probably the most effective for leading a teammate with a quick, hard pass down the length of the court to try to attempt a fast break. As an outfielder would throw a baseball to a cutoff man, the baseball pass in basketball follows a very similar technique. It's a one-handed pass. Step toward the target with the foot opposite the hand throwing the ball, and then follow through with an overhand pass. Younger players should focus on just hitting the moving target. Players should rotate as passers and receivers in this drill to become accustomed to both sides of the ball. 28. Leading player. Inexperienced players tend to throw behind a teammate when trying to lead them with a pass to the basket. Practice and repetitions are the best way to lead a teammate with a pass so that he doesn't have to break stride. In this drill, players line up in one of two lines, the passing line and the receiving line. The first player in the passing line will lead his teammate in the receiving line with a chest pass toward the basket. Passers must be able to anticipate the pace of their teammate's stride. Players should rotate lines after each round through the drill. Players can also practice leading their teammates toward the basket for a shot with either the chest pass or bounce pass. 29. Long lead pass. The long lead pass is a variation to the previous lead pass drill and is a prerequisite to the longer distance passing of the overhead and baseball passes. Here, the passers wait a little bit longer for their partners to run down the court before leading them with a chest pass. This drill helps players gauge how far they can accurately lead teammates with a chest pass before they must resort to an overhead pass. Drills like these are a great way to begin any practice because they involve everybody and include running for warm-up. 30. Moving pass drill. The moving pass drill is another great way to begin a practice. Players pair up with a teammate. Together they shuffle down the court, quick passing back and forth to one another while on the move. This drill is a beginner's way of teaching that once a passer passes the ball, he is still part of the game and should never give up on the play. Passers should always follow their pass and look for open lanes for a quick give and go to the basket. 31. Dribble Pass. This is a dual-purpose drill that combines the two major skill sets we've outlined in this program: dribbling and passing. This is another great way to begin a practice as well, to introduce to young players how the different basketball skills such as dribbling, passing, and shooting work off each other. In the dribble pass drill, players partner up and line up across from one another. The player with the ball will dribble toward and around his partner, and upon returning to his original position, he will deliver a chest pass to his partner, who will then dribble. This is also a great conditioning drill, and could also be run as a game like a relay race. 32. Spot passing. To set up this fun passing drill, a coach draws small circles with chalk on a driveway. To perform this game in a gym, cones or small pads can be used instead. Here we see dozens of circles randomly drawn about the length of the driveway or playing area. The size of your space dictates the number of teams of two that can compete. Here we see two teams of two players. On the go command, one player from each team will run out to a circle where they will receive a chest pass from their teammate. The initial passer will then run out to a circle further down the driveway. The player with the ball must pivot inside his circle and pass the ball to his teammate down the driveway. Each team will continue passing in this fashion until they reach the finish line. The first team to reach the finish line in the least amount of passes wins. 33. Bowling pin basketball. This is a fun target practice drill that also works on passing fundamentals. Simply, a player tries to knock over a series of cones sitting atop a ledge with a chest pass. Another player or coach should stand in back of the cones to collect the passed balls. The passer must run to the cones to collect the ball, dribble out a predetermined distance, and then try to knock off another cone. This game will help a passer's accuracy when it comes to having to hit his teammates with a pass in stride and in the chest during games. Players can challenge themselves to see how many passes it takes to knock down every cone. 34. Pass and shoot drill. This drill best simulates game situations for passing. In this drill, a parent or coach will act as a defender covering the initial passer. His purpose isn't to try to steal the ball. He should just stand in the passing lanes so that the players get used to finding open spaces and passing under pressure. The player at this point will make a pass to his teammate on the perimeter, then circle around the defender and head toward the basket for a layup. The player on the perimeter must make a bounce pass, leading his teammate to the basket without having him break stride. After the shot, players will rotate positions. The initial passer may have to get a pass off using the bounce pass or baseball pass if the defender is blocking lanes for a chest pass. 35. V-cut. The next set of drills will illustrate various offensive moves for creating passing lanes. Without being able to get open for a pass, none of the passing fundamentals discussed earlier will be effective. A successful pass requires proper fundamentals from at least two people, the passer and the receiver. The receiver must be able to shake the defender in order to get open for a pass. The first offensive move is the V-cut. To practice these offensive moves, set up cones in the shape of a triangle or a V, shown here. To perform the V-cut, the potential receiver shuffles from the first cone to the second cone as if shadowing a defender. The key here is not to move too fast. The offensive player wants to lull the defender to sleep with his move so when it comes time to cut, he can explode away from the defender. Upon reaching the second cone, the player will plant his foot and spring to the third cone, hands up, in anticipation of the pass. The explosive change in direction will create space between the receiver and defender. A variation of the V-cut is to add a third cut back to the second cone. If the receiver has his arm out with his hand closed into a fist, that would signal the passer to make a fake pass at the third cone and wait for the receiver to cut back to the second cone before making a bounce pass for an easy layup to the basket. 36. L-cut. This is a variation of the V-cut. Instead of changing direction in the shape of a V, the offensive player remains parallel to the passer, moving in the shape of an L. Players should have both moves handy in games because a player who performs the V-cut against a defender early in a game could fake out the same defender later in the game with the L-cut. The offensive player will instead pivot and explode perpendicular to the previous cone. Youth players can practice these moves alone before going against a defender. 37. Pick and roll. The pick and roll is an effective offensive move in all levels of basketball. The pick and roll involves at least three offensive players: the passer, the receiver, and the pick. The receiver will perform a V-cut, using all of the fundamentals described in the V-cut drill. He will jog to his teammate, who stands where the second cone would be in the V-cut drill. He will then pivot, roll off his teammate, and explode away to complete the V-shape. Where the third cone would be, the passer makes a chest pass to the receiver. The player applying the pick will run up to his teammate with the ball and stand still in front of him so he can dribble freely around him. The player acting as the pick can then spin and roll away from the dribbler for a bounce pass toward the basket. When performed with defenders, you'll see how the pick will shake the first defender off of the ball handler, forcing the second defender, at first covering the pick, to cover the dribbler, leaving the player providing the pick open to roll away uncovered for a pass. The ball handler can also fake the pass to the pick and pull up for a jump shot. 38. In the middle. This is a great passing drill that teaches players to find open space and passing lanes to make successful passes with defenders in the way. Two passers stand across from one another. In between them is a defender. The passers must pass the ball back and forth to one another without having any of the passes intercepted by the defender. If the defender steals the ball, he switches places with the passer who lost the ball. The passers cannot move from their spot when making their passes. They must rely on different passing techniques illustrated earlier, such as the chest pass, bounce pass, and overhead pass to get by the defender. 39. Get back on defense. This is a critical fundamental to basketball that is rarely practiced.
I got 10, I got 10, I got 10, I got 10.
Oftentimes, after a player makes his last foul shot, or when the other team grabs a rebound, he and his teammates will linger about, instead of backpedaling to get into a more defensive position to prevent odd man rushes or full court passes. Once the other team gains possession of the ball, the defense needs to get back on defense while calling out the number of the player they plan to cover if playing man-to-man defense. Communication is critical in basketball, especially when transitioning between offense and defense. 40. Defensive stance. It's important to get into the proper defensive stance when covering an opponent. Having the correct technique will put you in the best position to cause a turnover. When getting into the defensive stance, players should have their knees bent and back straight in an athletic position. This will allow the player to best shadow the defender in any direction. The key is not to be slumped over. The player's hand should be out and moving about to block the passer's vision and any potential passing lanes. The defensive player's feet should be spread wide, shoulder-width apart. Coaches can have their players shuffle their feet in various directions on their command while holding the defensive stance. Being able to stay in the defensive position while keeping up with the advancing offense is the key to good defense. 41. Communication drill. In all sports, communication is key.
I got ball. I got help.
In basketball, not only do offensive players have to communicate to one another, so too does the defense. When the basketball is being passed around the perimeter, the defensive players must communicate to their teammates who will be covering the player with the ball, so no players are accidentally left uncovered. Here, the defensive player is yelling out, "I've got ball." This is doubly important when the defense is playing in a zone and not man-to-man. It must be communicated who has the ball and if help is needed for a double team. Getting players comfortable with communicating at an early age will stress teamwork and team skills. 42. Zig Zag. This is a great shadow drill. It stresses dribbling and change of direction for the offensive player, as well as the defensive stance and shadowing for the defensive player. Cones are spread out along the driveway in the shape of a zigzag. The offensive player will dribble from cone to cone, having to change direction each time he comes to a cone. More experienced players can try some of the change of direction ball handling skills described earlier, such as through the legs or behind the back. The defensive player does not try to steal the ball. He just practices his footwork and defensive stance as he shuffles along the slalom. At the last cone, the two players can switch roles, the defensive player becoming the offensive player and vice versa. 43. Rebound. A key aspect to playing defense that is often overlooked in practice is boxing out a team during foul shots or any other type of field goal shots for that matter to prevent offensive rebounds. Boxing out the offense gives the defense the best chance for getting a rebound. When boxing out, the defensive player should turn his back into the closest offensive player so that he is between the player he is guarding and the basket. The defense should keep their opponent away from the basket by maintaining body contact. The goal is to keep the opponent pinned behind you so that he cannot circle around to the basket. Be sure not to hold the player you are guarding, which could result in a foul. 44. Backdoor play. This drill was introduced as a variation to the V-cut move, but should be broken down further because it's an effective play. The receiver will run the V-cut, pushing off his teammate to change direction. On his way to the third cone, he'll be asking for the pass, which will only be a decoy. His outstretched arm will signal to the passer that he's going to once again change directions by stopping short and going back in the direction from where he came, behind the defender's back. The passer will make a bounce pass for an easy layup. Practicing specific moves at an early age and reviewing how such moves affect the defense will help the youth player understand the breakdown of future moves at higher levels of play. 45. Inbound play. Coaches will have a dozen plays for inbounding the ball. Inbounding is important because it essentially sets up the entire offensive attack. For youth players, it's best to keep it simple. The inbounder should find the most open target. The offense can set picks for one another to get a teammate open. The inbounder should rehearse trying to find open teammates with a defender in his way, so he can practice finding open passing lanes, having to determine what type of pass is best to get off, whether it's a bounce pass or overhead pass. 46. Reachable shooting drills. This is a great drill for promoting shooting success to really young players by creating reachable shooting drills and working their way up to shooting at the basket. Here, the coach attaches a blue piece of tape on the basketball hoop pole, which will be the first target for the youth player to aim at. He can then aim for just the netting of the hoop. The next target can be the rim, followed by making a basket. Coaches can tell the shooter he must hit each target 3 consecutive times before moving on to the next one. This is a great way to break down the shot. It eliminates the daunting task of having to immediately shoot at a 10-foot target. Remember, young players respond positively to success. This is a great drill to encourage success.